The courtroom fell into a tense, almost suffocating stillness as Justice Breyer's laughter rang out, sharp and unyielding, cutting through the air like a blade. Jasmine Crockett sat poised at the center of the room, her hands folded, her gaze unwavering. The sound wasn't just laughter. It was a dismissive echo that seemed to mock the very essence of the arguments she had spent hours, days, and months crafting. The room froze as the laughter echoed, the weight of the moment pressing down on every attendee. Gasps rippled through the spectators, phones lifted instinctively, cameras capturing every flicker of expression, every subtle shift in the courtroom's charged atmosphere. Whispers spread like wildfire, a mix of shock, indignation, and anticipation. Did she just get laughed at? One spectator muttered. This isn't right, another hissed under their breath. The courtroom, once a symbol of solemnity, had become a stage for a confrontation that felt personal, national, and symbolic all at once. Crockett's eyes, calm and measured, scanned the room. There was no panic, no faltering in her posture. Instead, a quiet storm of determination simmered beneath her composed exterior. The audience sensed it, the kind of unwavering strength that commands attention even in the face of overt derision. The cameras panned across every face, some shocked, some incredulous, some silently cheering for the courage they couldn't yet voice. Social media feeds would erupt in real time. Hashtags were already forming before a single word was uttered. Every heartbeat seemed louder than the last. The echo of the laughter lingered, but Crockett's presence demanded acknowledgement. It wasn't just a courtroom skirmish, it was a clash of ideals, a collision of arrogance versus dignity. And in that suspended moment, every viewer, every witness, every unseen observer felt the tension coil tightly around the unfolding drama. And then, as the echoes of derision faded, a hush fell over the room. All eyes turned, all breaths held. The air crackled with anticipation. The kind Jasmine Crockett was no stranger to the weight of expectation. From her early days advocating for civil rights in her community, to her rise in the political and legal spheres, she had faced scrutiny, opposition, and even outright dismissal. Every step of her journey had been a test of courage, intellect, and unwavering commitment to justice. Yet nothing could have prepared her, or the nation, for the moment Justice Breyer chose to laugh openly at her in a courtroom packed with journalists, legal scholars, and viewers across the country. The courtroom was more than a legal arena. It was a symbolic stage where principles collided with authority, where courage challenged theatrics, and where the integrity of one woman faced the arrogance of a storied institution. The live cameras captured every flicker of emotion, every gasp, and every whisper. Hashtags began to trend almost instantly. Crockett vs. Breyer, Justice or Jest, Courtroom Clash 2025. Social media feeds erupted as clips circulated, and the debate ignited not only legal enthusiasts but the broader public, hungry for a story that resonated with justice, identity, and national pride. Crockett's political and legal track record amplified the stakes. She had fought tirelessly for marginalized communities, pushed for legislative reforms that challenged entrenched powers, and held steadfast to her moral compass, even when it meant personal and professional risk. Her presence in this courtroom was a culmination of years of advocacy, a testament to resilience, and a promise that truth would not be silenced, even under the weight of authority. But the tension went beyond her resume. Every eye in the room, and millions more watching on screens, understood the unspoken narrative. This was a test of composure versus derision, intellect versus condescension. Breyer's laughter was not merely a moment of levity. It was a challenge, a declaration of control. It was the kind of moment that could intimidate, unsettle, and force even the most seasoned figures into submission. Yet Crockett had prepared. Years of strategy, anticipation, and mental fortitude converged in her mind. She knew that one line, one carefully measured response, could not only neutralize the mockery but shift the entire narrative. It was a moment charged with suspense, a pivot point where the courtroom and the nation would witness the collision of authority and principle. And as she drew a deep breath, readying herself for the words that would echo far beyond the walls of the courtroom, the cameras, the microphones, and the world seemed to hold their breath. One statement would redefine the narrative and leave everyone questioning who truly held power. But before that revelation could unfold, the story demanded we understand the figure who had dared to mock her, the man whose hubris would soon be contrasted. Against her unwavering dignity, justice. Breyer was no ordinary figure in the American judicial landscape. A towering presence in the Supreme Court, his career spanned decades of precedent-setting rulings, landmark opinions, and high-profile cases that shaped the nation's understanding of law and justice. From complex constitutional debates to heated political controversies, Breyer's name carried weight, a reputation forged through intellect, eloquence, and an unshakable confidence in his own authority. Yet beneath the veneer of respectability, whispers of arrogance and subtle condescension often followed him into courtrooms across the country. Colleagues and legal scholars had long remarked on Breyer's tendency to lean into his own prominence, a confidence that occasionally bordered on theatrical. Witnesses recalled the half-smile that crept across his face during oral arguments, the deliberate pauses that underscored his sense of superiority, and the almost imperceptible gestures, tapping a pen, adjusting glasses, leaning back, that conveyed, "I am in command here." These were not mere habits, but carefully cultivated signals, a silent assertion that the courtroom, and everyone within it, moved to the rhythm of his judgment. High-profile cases revealed this side of Breyer with unmistakable clarity. In hearings that garnered national attention, his incisive questioning often carried a dual edge. One part genuine legal curiosity, one part pointed reminder of the gap between seasoned authority and the witness before him. Legal analysts noted that even when his arguments were sound, the delivery sometimes carried an air of dismissal, a subtle undermining that left opponents off balance. Those familiar with courtroom dynamics knew the effect. Confidence that bordered on intimidation could sway perception before facts were even weighed. Cinematic in his presence, Breyer exuded an aura of inevitability. He could command attention without rising from his seat, lean back, chuckle lightly, and project the belief that the room itself bowed to his every word. To some, this was the hallmark of a master jurist. To others, it was arrogance cloaked in tradition, a reminder that power often speaks louder than reason. The juxtaposition of intellect and hubris was palpable, and it made the challenge Crockett faced all the more daunting. Yet, even as Breyer maintained this self-assured exterior, cracks in his armor were subtle but visible to those who studied him closely. Moments of impatience, the occasional dismissive glance, the fleeting frustration when challenged by younger voices, all suggested that beneath the formidable facade lay a vulnerability born of expectation, a need to control the narrative, to assert dominance in every exchange. And this vulnerability, however well guarded, was exactly what a poised, strategic opponent could exploit. Jasmine Crockett, with her years of preparation, advocacy, and courtroom experience, had already analyzed these tendencies. She understood the rhythm of his authority, the weight of his reputation, and the calculated arrogance that often accompanied it. In her mind, she rehearsed each possible angle, each pause, each measured response. She knew that the right words, delivered with precision and composure, could not only neutralize his mockery, but shift the entire courtroom's perception. Breyer's hubris, so long a shield of intimidation, would meet a counterforce it had never anticipated. Unwavering dignity, sharp intellect, and strategic brilliance. And as the courtroom waited, cameras focused and the nation watched, the stage was set. One figure, seasoned and self-assured, believed he held ultimate authority. The other, resolute and prepared, was about to challenge that perception in a way that would ripple far beyond the walls of the chamber. The moment of reckoning was approaching, and every observer, from journalists to casual viewers, sensed that the clash was about to become unforgettable. Jasmine Crockett's story was never one of shortcuts or inherited privilege. From her earliest days, she faced a world that demanded resilience, intellect, and courage in equal measure. Born into a family that valued education and community service, Crockett learned quickly that advocacy was not merely a career, it was a responsibility. Every lesson in fairness, every encounter with injustice, shaped her resolve to use her voice not for personal gain, but to defend those often overlooked in the halls of power. Her rise in law and politics was a testament to both brilliance and relentless determination. In law school, she distinguished herself with an analytical mind, capable of untangling the most complex legal arguments. Professors noted her uncanny ability to see through obfuscation, to anticipate counter-arguments before they were fully formed, and to craft responses that were as precise as they were compelling. She carried this skill into her early legal career, taking on cases that demanded not only legal acumen but moral courage, cases defending marginalized communities, challenging entrenched systems, and insisting that justice be more than a theory. Crockett's journey was marked by personal sacrifice. Late nights poring over case files, weekends spent canvassing neighborhoods, and countless hours mentoring young advocates became routine. Her commitment often came at the expense of personal comfort, but she saw every challenge as an opportunity to refine her craft and to prepare for the moment when her voice could make the greatest impact. She understood that courage was forged in quiet persistence, not applause, and she carried that ethos into every courtroom and political forum she entered. What made her formidable extended beyond intellect and dedication. It was her composure under pressure. In moments where others faltered, she remained measured, reading the room, observing nuances in tone, expression, and reaction. Witnesses and colleagues alike marveled at her calm poise, a demeanor that disarmed antagonists without diminishing the force of her argument. It was this rare combination of sharp intellect and unshakable calm that would later make her courtroom confrontations unforgettable. Crockett's empathy was equally integral to her power. Community projects, outreach programs, and personal mentorship were not merely public relations gestures. They were authentic extensions of her belief in justice as a lived experience. She listened to the stories of those society had left behind, internalized their struggles, and translated their needs into action. Early career obstacles, biased rulings, dismissive colleagues, and systemic barriers taught her the importance of standing firm, speaking truth with clarity, and remaining steadfast when the world expected hesitation. Her political career built on this foundation. Every legislative effort reflected a commitment to equity, every public address emphasized accountability, and every debate showcased a mind attuned to both principle and pragmatism. Crockett became a symbol of what courage paired with intellect could achieve. A leader who did not merely react, but anticipated, prepared, and executed with precision. She understood that influence was rooted in respect earned, not demanded, and she wielded it accordingly. Even as Justice Breyer's laughter echoed in the courtroom that day, Crockett's history, her preparation, her poise, and her unwavering commitment had already positioned her for the moment she now faced. Every early challenge, every long night of study, every encounter with skepticism and dismissal had been a rehearsal for this confrontation. She knew how to navigate the interplay of authority and defiance, of spectacle and substance. Her strategy was not impulsive. It was meticulously calibrated, a reflection of years spent mastering both law and human dynamics. As the courtroom air thickened with tension, the audience could sense that this was more than a debate. It was a collision of legacies. On one side, a revered figure confident in his authority. On the other, a rising force of intellect, dignity, and moral clarity ready to challenge every expectation. Crockett's journey had prepared her for this exact moment, to dismantle pretense with reason, to meet arrogance with calm precision, and to transform a moment of dismissal into an unforgettable demonstration of courage and command. The stage was set, the stakes monumental, and the nation's attention fixed on what would unfold next. The courtroom's atmosphere thickened, electric with anticipation as Justice Breyer's laughter echoed once more. Longer this time, sharper, as if daring Jasmine Crockett to respond. Each chuckle reverberated off the polished walls, a subtle declaration of dominance, a reminder of the hierarchy he presumed he controlled. Whispers spread among the spectators, some shocked, some emboldened, all captivated. Phones emerged, live streams flickering to life, capturing every audible smirk, every reaction. The world was watching, and the weight of their gaze pressed down on the room like a palpable force. Breyer's interruptions grew more insistent. A raised hand, a pointed remark, a half-finished objection, each calculated to unsettle her, to provoke a misstep that could be broadcast across news cycles and social feeds. But Crockett remained a portrait of composure. Her gaze did not waver. Her voice, when it rose, was steady, clear, authoritative. Every word carefully measured, every pause purposeful. She reclaimed the rhythm of the courtroom from the uninvited laughter. While Breyer wielded spectacle, Crockett wielded intellect, and in the contrast, the tension became cinematic. Hubris against discipline, arrogance against calm mastery. The audience leaned in. Spectators exchanged glances, some leaning forward in disbelief, others nodding in recognition of her poise. Phones continued recording, clips already trending across social platforms, captions forming even before words could be fully processed. Crockett refuses to be intimidated. Breyer laughed. She silenced him. Courtroom showdown shocks nation. The immediacy of social validation intensified the stakes. Every viewer online, every comment, every reaction magnified the duel unfolding on the marble floor of the courtroom. As Breyer pressed, attempting to provoke hesitation, Crockett's strategy became evident. She listened intently, absorbed each objection, each jab, and let them pass over her like water on stone. The villain expected fear, confusion, a crack in her confidence, but what he encountered was a fortress of intellect and calm. The juxtaposition was striking. Every smirk he flashed, every wave of his hand was met with measured, unwavering clarity. Her silence, deliberate, spoke volumes. The room began to sense that the power dynamic had subtly shifted. Then came the moment of quiet, the heartbeat before the storm. Breyer leaned forward, anticipating hesitation, expecting her to falter under scrutiny. Cameras zoomed in. Microphones caught the near-silent intake of breath from the gallery, the subtle exchange of glances among clerks and aides. All attention funneled into that brief pause, the pregnant silence before she struck. And when Crockett finally spoke, the words were not only precise, they were devastatingly strategic. Each sentence dismantled assumptions, subtly exposed contradictions, and reframed the narrative. It was clear that this confrontation was no longer about a single courtroom dispute. It had become a battle of intellect and integrity, with the nation watching every move. He expected hesitation. What she said next stunned everyone. Gasps echoed. Phones trembled in hands recording every nuance, and even Breyer's confident demeanor flickered, if only for a fraction of a second. The courtroom, live audiences and viewers online collectively held their breath, realizing that this was no ordinary rebuttal. Crockett had transformed Breyer's laughter, his theatrics, into the canvas for her defining moment. The air was charged with suspense, every person sensing that the mic drop, the climactic turn, was imminent. As whispers of her words rippled through social media feeds, trending hashtags spiked, and commentators began to speculate in real time, the stage was set. The hero had weathered the storm of ridicule and interruption, poised for the defining counterattack. Every spectator, every viewer, every online user now awaited a moment that promised to change the narrative, that would cement Crockett's brilliance against the backdrop of judicial authority. The tension was unbearable yet electric, preparing the audience for the cinematic climax that was about to unfold. The mic drop moment. The room seemed to exhale collectively as Jasmine Crockett began to speak. Every eye in the courtroom was fixed on her, every camera lens trained to capture the defining moment that was about to unfold. Her voice was calm, measured, and unwavering, each word carefully chosen, each phrase a calculated strike against the presumption of authority that Justice Breyer had wielded so confidently. The laughter that had echoed moments before now felt incongruous, almost faint, as if the walls themselves recognized the shift in power. She paused deliberately, letting the weight of her opening line settle over the room. The silence was profound. Even Breyer's habitual confidence faltered for a fraction of a heartbeat. Crockett's gaze did not waver. She scanned the courtroom, acknowledging the murmurs of the audience with a subtle nod, a small, almost imperceptible gesture that carried an aura of command. Each movement was deliberate, a visual punctuation to her words, a reminder that she was not merely responding, she was reclaiming the narrative. "Respect," she began, her voice resonating in the hushed space, "is earned, not assumed. Authority does not grant immunity from accountability." The statement landed like a gavel, reverberating across the courtroom and beyond. Through every live stream, every phone camera capturing the moment for the world to witness, gasps rippled from the gallery, whispered affirmations flowed, and the collective audience, both in the room and online, leaned in as if holding their breath, waiting for the next line that would irrevocably alter the balance of power. Breyer's composure, once a fortress of unassailable certainty, flickered. He shifted slightly in his seat, a subtle sign of unease that did not go unnoticed. Crockett's words did not merely address his behavior. They exposed the underlying hubris, the subtle condescension, and the presumption that she would hesitate, falter, or yield. Each sentence she delivered was precise, dissecting assumptions, dismantling the argument, and reframing the confrontation not as a question of rank, but as a question of principle. She allowed another pause, slow and intentional, letting the courtroom and the cameras absorb the magnitude of her rebuttal. Every whisper, every exchanged glance, every phone screen recording the moment became part of the narrative she controlled. Social media erupted instantly. Clips went viral, captions formed spontaneously, and hashtags began trending within minutes. Crockett unstoppable, Yarn justice redefined, a courtroom mic drop. Memes proliferated, amplifying her presence far beyond the marble walls, each one a testament to the resonance of her words. The contrast between the two figures could not have been more cinematic. Crockett stood as a pillar of dignity, intellect, and measured courage, while Breyer, the seasoned jurist, appeared momentarily unmoored, his authority challenged not through aggression, but through clarity, principle, and unassailable logic. Each reaction in the room underscored this shift. Murmurs of disbelief, nods of admiration, and the collective realization that the tables had turned irreversibly. Her delivery continued, a rhythm of strategic brilliance, calm, precise, and incisive. She layered her arguments with historical references, legal precedent, and ethical appeals, each woven seamlessly to highlight the contrast between arrogance and integrity. The pauses, the inflection, and the deliberate cadence transformed the exchange into a performance of intellect and dignity, a demonstration that courage and reason could withstand intimidation and spectacle. Audience members exchanged glances, some leaning forward in awe, others discreetly whispering validation. Phones remained raised, live streams capturing every nuance, every subtle nod, every fleeting expression of surprise on Breyer's face. In slow-motion perception, the courtroom seemed suspended in the gravity of the moment. Crockett's brilliance against Breyer's faltering composure, heroism measured against assumed superiority. Every detail mattered, every gesture amplified the narrative unfolding in real time. And then came the decisive moment, the culmination of every pause, every carefully chosen word, a final, sharp rebuttal that crystallized the point she had been building. The room went utterly silent, the kind of silence heavy with recognition, awe, and disbelief. Breyer's habitual confidence had been chipped away, layer by layer, until the veneer of untouchable authority had cracked. The cameras captured it all, the subtle furrowed brow, the shifting posture, the unspoken acknowledgement that the courtroom's narrative had been rewritten. In that suspended silence, social media feeds exploded. Clips of her words circulated rapidly, comments flooded in, and the world seemed to pause collectively to process the unfolding drama. Analysts began dissecting every line. Commentators praised her poise, and citizens across the country celebrated the spectacle as a moment of justice, principle, and triumph. The narrative had shifted from a simple courtroom exchange to a symbolic victory for courage, dignity, and integrity. Crockett's calm authority contrasted so sharply with Breyer's momentary disorientation that the visual impact alone would be remembered. It was not merely what she said, but how she said it. The measured cadence, the poised gestures, the unwavering confidence that transformed her words into a cultural moment. Every viewer, whether in the courtroom or across the globe, could sense the magnitude. This was a demonstration of principled power, of intellect prevailing over presumption. As she concluded, the room remained suspended for a beat longer, the echoes of her final words hanging in the air like a tangible force. Breyer exhaled slowly, a micro-expression of realization crossing his features. The courtroom, live audience, and digital viewers alike absorbed the gravity of the moment. It was clear. The mic drop had landed. The confrontation resolved not with theatrics but with unassailable clarity and moral authority. And even as the courtroom began to stir, as whispers and murmurs grew into recognition and applause, the impact extended far beyond the physical space. Clips circulated on social media with lightning speed, hashtags trended worldwide, and the discussion escalated into every corner of political, legal, and cultural discourse. The narrative was no longer confined to the walls of the courtroom. It had become a national moment, a viral testament to composure, intellect, and courage under pressure. Jasmine Crockett had not just answered a provocation, she had redefined the parameters of respect, authority, and power in the public eye. Her response illuminated the disparity between hubris and principled confidence, leaving an indelible impression on every observer. Breyer's laughter had been transformed from a tool of intimidation into a catalyst for her most brilliant performance, a demonstration of how calm intellect and moral clarity could silence the most entrenched arrogance. As the feeds, memes, and discussions proliferated, one truth crystallized in the minds of all watching. She had seized the moment, and the world would not stop talking about what she just did. Every glance, every clip, every whispered acknowledgement reinforced that Crockett's mastery of the courtroom had not only neutralized the laughter, but had created an enduring moment of cultural and political resonance. It was a triumph of dignity over mockery, of intellect over presumption, and of courage over theatrics. The stage was set for the reverberations that would follow, ensuring that this mic drop moment would be remembered for years to come. The moment Crockett's words landed, the courtroom did more than gasp. It ignited a chain reaction that rippled across the nation. Phones lifted, live streams captured every subtle gesture, and within minutes, clips of her poised, devastating response were circulating online. Social media erupted in a frenzy. Hashtags like Crockett claps back, Justice Redefined, and Courtroom mic drop trended globally, while memes flooded feeds, blending humor with admiration. Every scroll and swipe amplified her brilliance, turning the courtroom exchange into a viral spectacle no one could ignore. Political commentators dissected the scene frame by frame, debating the weight of each statement. Pundits on cable news replayed her rebuttal, analyzing the precision and poise that left a seasoned jurist visibly unsettled. Influencers and content creators remixed moments into short, shareable clips that spread across TikTok, Instagram, and X, framing Crockett not merely as a lawyer or politician, but as a symbol of courage and intellect confronting unchecked arrogance. Even casual viewers who had tuned in for curiosity were now part of the conversation, retweeting, sharing, and commenting on what had become an explosive cultural moment. Celebrities weighed in, amplifying the impact. Each endorsement, whether a tweet praising her composure or a clip commenting on her strategic brilliance, magnified the spectacle. Their voices lent social validation, creating a snowball effect. Admiration for Crockett's unwavering dignity collided with disbelief at Breyer's rare display of vulnerability. The courtroom incident transcended legal analysis, evolving into a conversation about respect, authority, and the power of measured courage in the face of provocation. Public opinion shifted rapidly. Social media users debated, shared, and dissected the exchange, creating a collective sense of witnessing history in real time. Crockett's measured intelligence became the benchmark for courtroom demeanor, civility, and moral authority. Breyer, by contrast, found his authority scrutinized in ways that went beyond legal reasoning. News cycles, blog posts, and opinion pieces questioned his response, his composure, and the implications for his legacy. For a man whose career had rested on respect and gravitas, the fallout was immediate and profound. Legal circles buzzed with analysis. Fellow attorneys marveled at her strategic brilliance, recognizing the rare combination of intellect, composure, and principle she had displayed. The courtroom moment became a case study in public perception, crisis management, and rhetorical mastery. Professors and students of law dissected her approach, noting the precision of her language and the psychological timing of her pauses, framing her response as a modern example of courtroom strategy meeting cultural impact. As discussions proliferated, one question dominated conversations both online and offline. Could Breyer recover from this public humiliation? Every news segment, social media post, and heated debate returned to this point, heightening the sense of FOMO for anyone not yet witnessing the event. Everyone was asking, could he recover? Became a rhetorical refrain, underscoring the widespread fascination with the power dynamics that had played out. It was no longer just a courtroom incident. It was a defining moment in public consciousness. The viral storm did more than elevate Crockett. It redefined expectations of accountability and respect. Her poise inspired countless viewers, especially those from marginalized or underrepresented communities, who saw her composure as both aspirational and affirming. People shared her response as a personal standard of integrity, courage, and self-assuredness in the face of intimidation. Each post, tweet, and clip reinforced the narrative. A woman of principle had stood unshaken, forcing an entrenched authority to confront the consequences of mockery and presumption. Even media coverage beyond social media amplified the shockwaves. Editorials and analysis pieces emphasized the clash of personalities and principles, framing Crockett's performance as a lesson in dignity over theatrics. Talk shows replayed her remarks, dissected the timing, and contrasted her calm, strategic brilliance with Breyer's brief lapse of composure. The ripple effects extended into political discourse, where pundits and commentators debated not only the immediate courtroom outcome, but also the symbolic significance. Courage, intellect, and integrity could not only survive but dominate in a world accustomed to arrogance and spectacle. By the time the news cycle began to stabilize, Crockett's influence had spread far beyond the walls of the courtroom. The viral clips continued to circulate, commentary persisted, and the FOMO around Breyer's potential recovery lingered. Social validation and cultural resonance had cemented her moment into national consciousness. She had not only silenced mockery but transformed it into a defining display of principle and intelligence that would be remembered, referenced, and celebrated for months to come. The stage was now set for reflection, a turning point where the story would shift from confrontation to universal lessons about courage, dignity, and the power of unwavering integrity. In the stillness that followed the courtroom storm, Jasmine Crockett's words reverberated far beyond legal arguments and televised coverage. She had not merely defended herself, she had reframed the confrontation into a universal lesson: courage, dignity, and integrity. These were the true measures of strength, and they had triumphed over arrogance, mockery, and theatrics. Every viewer, from seasoned political analysts to ordinary citizens scrolling through social media feeds, recognized a truth that transcended the courtroom walls. Standing firm in principle carries a weight no authority can dismiss. Her response had illuminated the difference between power wielded with self-interest and authority exercised with humility. Crockett's poise became a mirror reflecting the values of honesty, fairness, and respect. In that moment, the trial shifted from being a battle of personalities to a study in moral clarity. It was no longer about a single judge laughing or a lawyer rebutting. It was about the enduring principle that truth, when delivered with conviction and composure, resonates universally. Viewers across the country felt an almost tangible connection to this idea, as if witnessing her courage offered them permission to assert their own voices in moments of injustice. The lesson extended beyond the courtroom. Every student of law, every young politician, every individual facing systemic pressure saw in Crockett a blueprint for navigating conflict with dignity. She demonstrated that intimidation can be neutralized not with anger or counterattacks, but with measured intellect, unwavering conviction, and unshakable composure. Her example showed that principle is never outdated, that integrity commands respect even when confronted by the most established figures, and that courage is not loud or aggressive, it is precise, thoughtful, and relentless. Audiences felt an emotional crescendo build as the impact of her stand settled in. Those who had cheered silently through live streams, gasps, and whispers now experienced a deeper, more personal resonance. They felt validated, empowered, and inspired. Her actions underscored that courage does not require grandiose theatrics. It demands clarity of thought, moral certainty, and a refusal to be diminished by ridicule. Each retweet, clip, and social media discussion became more than viral content. It became a statement of solidarity with values that transcend politics, identity, and circumstance. Crockett's example also offered a subtle but powerful lesson in leadership. True influence is not measured by the ability to command fear or force compliance. It is measured by the capacity to inspire, to transform conflict into a moment of collective reflection, and to elevate principles over personalities. She had turned what could have been an embarrassing spectacle into a defining affirmation of justice and self-respect. The courtroom, once filled with tension and disbelief, now stood as a metaphorical classroom where courage and wisdom taught a lesson far more enduring than the immediate trial. As the nation absorbed the resonance of her words, the transition became natural, from public spectacle to reflective inspiration. The story was not just about who won an argument or who faltered in the spotlight. It was about the universal truths Crockett had embodied. She left the audience with a clear understanding. Dignity, intelligence, and courage are timeless allies. and no display of arrogance or theatrics can ever truly overshadow them. It was an invitation to viewers to internalize the lesson, to carry the courage forward in their own lives, and to recognize the quiet, unwavering power of principled action. And with that, the stage was set for the final movement, the outro and call to action, where viewers would be reminded not only of the dramatic courtroom showdown, but also of their own potential to act with conviction, stand firm in principle, and champion integrity in the face of any challenge. The crescendo of inspiration naturally led to engagement, reflection, and a shared sense of empowerment, an ending that was both satisfying and a launchpad for collective participation. The courtroom showdown between Justice Breyer and Jasmine Crockett was more than a legal battle. It was a clash of principles, a vivid display of courage, meeting arrogance head-on. From the moment Breyer's laughter echoed across the room to Crockett's poised, incisive response that silenced the entire chamber, viewers witnessed a lesson in dignity, integrity, and the power of standing firm under pressure. This was a defining moment, a reminder that true strength lies not in intimidation or theatrics, but in unwavering principle. Crockett's composure and courage became a beacon for anyone navigating adversity. Her words proved that intellect, poise, and moral clarity can shift the balance of even the most lopsided confrontation. The nation watched, social media erupted, and the courtroom became the stage for an unforgettable lesson. Arrogance may demand attention, but it can never outweigh truth and courage. In this moment, courage triumphed, dignity prevailed, and the moral clarity of her response left an indelible mark. Now it's your turn to be part of the conversation. Join a community that values justice, empowerment, and principled action. Subscribe to stay connected with stories that inspire and inform. Share this unforgettable courtroom moment to spark discussion and leave your thoughts in the comments. Let us know how Crockett's stand resonates with you. Together, we celebrate courage over intimidation, integrity over hubris, and action over complacency. This isn't just a story, it's a movement, a call to recognize the power of standing tall even in the face of authority. Engage, share, and let the lessons of this moment guide your own journey toward impact and empowerment.